Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
I'm Courtney Amundson, and I channel the state of oneness. It was at 16 when I really awakened to this experience. I think it's a progression for everyone. It's a progression of awakening moments that lead up to, maybe a more significant one. And it was March 12, 2012 that significant moment happened for me, but I think my entire life before that had been moments leading up to that. I had a very nurturing childhood, and I grew up in an environment where nature and the arts and music were very important. So that was, for me, I think, a central part of my journey into channeling, because it was a way that at that time I was channeling, just in a different format. And so I think for a long time that was my conduit. And, a piece of me that I developed over time. And I found that connection to myself through those different things. And so when I got a little bit older and I got introduced to Qigong and more spiritual things, Esther Hicks, Lee Carroll, some great teachers, Deepak Chopra, I started to get more interested in the deeper meanings. So at 15 is the time in my life that I started to read a lot of Deepak Chopra and Abraham Hicks and Lee Carroll. I got introduced to around that time. And those materials really helped me to learn about spirituality and meditation. And even younger than that, I learned about Qigong. And so at that time in my life, that's when I started to practice Qigong and meditation. And so that was the foundation for my spiritual life to blossom. Probably 2005, I would say, is the starting point when my mom got introduced to Qigong, and she practiced that for a couple of years before I even knew what it was or became interested in what it was. And it was around 2008, I would say, that I started to practice myself and learn about what it was all about and how to move the energy in my body. And I started to practice the meditations on a daily basis. There was this butterfly meditation, which was a daily thing for me, and I would visualize anything that was happening in my body that didn't feel good, any pain in my body, transforming into butterflies. So it was my mom that got introduced to Spring Force Qigong, and that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening, I would say, if we call it that. and the foundation for, a lot that I've learned. The founder of that company, Master Courtney Lin, has been my teacher ever since. And so I see that as the beginning and the end, really, to where I am now, is that foundation, and that depth of spirituality and empowerment really came from that time in my life. I did pick up the Seth book, the first Seth book, somewhere around 17, I think, and I found it to be interesting but very, very complex. And at that time, I was channeling myself. And so I had two different sort of voices going on at the same time. I was reading the Seth books, and I was doing my own channeling. And what I found from that is, what was coming through me was so gentle and so relatable to me that, everything else sort of became background. But I found the Seth material to be interesting, and yet to me a bit outdated for the times. But I respect all the materials that are out there, and I think that it's a flavor for everyone out there. So my mother was interested in all of this stuff before, so for her it was, it was different that I was doing it. It was surprising, and it was, exciting that I was doing it, but, neither of us expected it to be me. We listened to channels before, but, you sort of think about that as something different. You think about channeling or channelers as something rare in a sense. And so until I started channeling myself, I didn't know what a natural feeling it was, or what a common thing it really was. Yes, I think if it weren't for my mom and the things that she was interested in, I probably wouldn't have had the exposure till later in my life. But I think I would have found it on my own regardless, because of my desire. I think that was an accelerator for me in the sense that I was asking on some deeper level, I was asking for the answers, and that's how it provided itself to me. But if I wasn't asking, even if my mom was interested in that stuff and there wasn't a part of me that was yearning for that, I think my life would be completely different. But it was because I was, I listened to what she was listening to, or I picked up the books that she would, pick up. So there was a piece of me that I think wanted to know those answers. Yeah, my dad was supportive too. I think my whole family was very supportive. But again, there was a lot for each one of us individually, we were learning what was happening. And it seemed like everything was in a constant sort of shift. I was figuring out what was happening to me. And the experiences in the beginning that I was having were so deep and so, out of body in a sense that I had to learn how to communicate those things in a way that made sense. The colors that I would see, the experiences that I had, they were so unlike anything earthly. I would say that there was probably about 2 or 3 months that I was experiencing an almost constant state of being in, moving through these different realities. But for me, it was such a natural thing to feel that state of oneness, to feel that state of unity, consciousness, and to feel connected to all things, and completely in your empowerment, and completely in a state of knowing, and guidance. Even doing my human things, I felt completely guided the entire time. So it was a real parallel sort of, reality. It felt interesting. I was living my human life and my day-to-day life, and then there's a part of me that was experiencing crazy things, 3 or 4 hours a day. At that time, I would sit down and meditate for hours and hours at a time. So it was a very accelerated time for a couple of those months in the beginning. So it was at age 16 that I started to receive the material for my book. And it's just been an incredible journey since then. But I didn't intend to make it a book in the beginning. And I think that's the interesting part, is that it was for my own personal evolution in the beginning. And I didn't have the idea of a book. I was just having these experiences and meditating, and that's all I cared about, because on a day-to-day basis I was getting guidance and it was helping me. And my daily life was becoming better. So that's all that I cared about, and the guidance started to progress over time. And so that's when the messages started to come through me that I needed to write a book and share it, and I didn't want to. If I was 30 and I had just started this, I think it would be a whole different point of view. It's a different point in life for people, but it's hard for me to project into the past or future, in the sense that, I think the moment that chose me, or I chose, is exactly how it is supposed to be. And at the same time, I see that, and I've been taught by these teachings that are coming through, that all paths are golden, in the sense that, and I saw this vision myself, that, I saw from sort of an aerial view that any path that we take is the right one, and they all lead to the right point for us. So you can't make a mistake, and that's the awesome part about it. Well, music has always been a part of my life since the very, very beginning. I remember the first instrument that I wanted actually was an accordion when I was about 3. So I had that sort of feeling early on that I wanted to play music. And then, my violin was sort of my best friend for a really long time. And it's unfolded even more now. Now I'm playing the harmonium and doing kirtan, which is an amazing progression too. But that's what I find for myself, is it's one thing after another, where you put your energy, and there's different expressions of that come through. It's definitely a form of healing. Music and sound is exceptionally complex, and it's something that I'd like to learn more about. Sound healing. Sound healing is something that I have been very interested in for a really long time, and I have some crystal bowls for sound healing as well. So it's complex, and to me, it's not as much about the science of it, even though that's interesting. It's about the feeling that it gives you, and it's definitely helped me and helped a lot of people. I would say what I do is who I am. It's not something that I do, it's who I am. And it's every part that I'm expressing in the work is from myself and from no other ulterior motive. It's not to please other people. It's not to bring some new age content. It's because it's myself and I'm expressing it, and the bonus is it does help people. And I'm lucky that I've made a lot of connections around the world that help to validate that for me, and show me that, I am helping people, and it doesn't matter who they are, what religion they're from, what race they are. It doesn't matter. And some people we don't speak the same language, and we can still communicate in that way. So it's been sort of a humbling experience to see how it's come together. I'm 100% committed to it, and there wasn't a single point that I ever questioned what was coming through or the power of it, because the visions and the feeling of it was the most validating thing that I have ever experienced. It's beyond the kind of validation that you get when, somebody says to you, that was a good job, or you're doing a good job, you're on the right path. It was beyond that kind of validation. It was like that core part of you that is like, you feel it and you know it, and so it is the truth. So that's how I felt with this, and I couldn't argue with it. There was no point. and I wouldn't want to do anything different, because it was the path of least resistance. It's what felt right to me, and I could see how it would come together with my own talents. And I was like, this is a no-brainer, I'll do it. But you have to prepare me. That's what I said too, You have to give me the tools to do it, because I was scared, I will say that, about certain aspects of what I knew I would embark on. I was scared about the public speaking and publishing, just like, how do I do this? I mean, I've taken English class, but that's about it. So I didn't know really what to expect, but it all came together, and certain people along my path showed up and helped me. And the other part that was very interesting is that new talents came up within me. And I learned through the teachings about the Akashic Records. And I learned about that there's pieces of ourselves that exist within us that we don't know about. And when we ask to be presented with those pieces of ourselves to help us on our path, then we can develop in that way. I think a lot of people block themselves, and maybe we are our only block. Maybe it's ourselves that is only blocking us, and everything else is free and open all the time. But my personal experience has been, because I've always been conscious from a young age of what is available and the law of attraction and what I do choose and what I can choose, I think I set myself up right away to, say, I'm not going to take just the easy automatic path. I'm not going to be on autopilot for my entire life. And I think that knowingness of that already sets you up for not going down the opposite. Like, you can't, once you know what you know, you can't take a different path without really like trudging through the mud, and that's just too painful. And so you'll turn around and you'll take the easier path. I think that's what happened to me and what I've noticed a lot of. Channeling, I would say, is that state where we're open to the higher possibility of our human capacity, tuning into the vibration of source energy. That's what I would say. And that was very wordy, but it's true. And, the way that I see it is we're all part of this source energy. And channeling is when we tune into that frequency that we are part of, that we are not separate from. We are very much part of it. It's that gateway to infinite possibilities. And everyone can call it a different thing. And that doesn't matter to me. Everyone, can call it, they can call it, being in the zone. I hear that a lot. People hear that a lot. They're in their workspace. You might be a writer, you might be a musician, you might be an artist, but you're in that zone place where you go to a different place when, time just sort of goes by and you feel like you're in a more inspired place. That's channeling. So I like to showcase that to people. to show them that it doesn't just come in this sense. And if we allow it to be that broader expression, then it frees so much up, and it gives us that openness and connection to a higher guidance in a more direct way. So that's what I think that it is, and we can take it. Every person can take it a different way. I think I'm accepting of how it is. Here's how I'll say it. I'm accepting of each individual expressing it in their own way. And one thing that I will say as well is what I've been taught through my own teachings that have come through is that we are our own greatest teachers and healers. And so usually the channels that I connect to are the ones that also help spread that awareness or message. That, it's really not about that person who channels, it's about helping other people and ourselves to connect. So that's what my work has been about as I have been channeling for 5 years. It's been, the teachings have been central around that, foundational around that, which is, to help people to find that connection themselves. Because that's what brings the change in consciousness on our planet. So, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. I think it is what it is, and each person is a different expression of that. And the way that they express it is their own way. And I might not be connected to it, and that's fine. And that's not, that doesn't mean it's not of value, but there's a different flavor for every seeker out there, I'll say. It shocked me. All of the information that came through in that book shocked me. I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know that it could come through myself. I listened to Abraham Hicks, but it wasn't that kind of material. I'll tell you that much. There was what I listened to was more focused on the law of attraction, and so what started coming through was mind-boggling to me. And actually, what Spirit was telling me in the very beginning of that channeling is there's so much to come through and so much to teach, but you don't have the vocabulary to write it out. Because I was being downloaded with information which I could understand, but for the purpose of a book, I needed to have the vocabulary, and so that's when I started listening to Lee Carroll. And Lee Carroll's teachings, what was coming through Cryon, was very similar to what was coming through myself at the time, almost parallel to this same information. So I learned a lot of vocabulary from listening to those teachings, and then I was channeling myself, and when that opened up, the information just went crazy. It was just flowing out. I think I'm definitely here to help my own age group, and that comes through in my passion about it as well, because I've said from the beginning that my number one priority is to bring this work to my age group, because I don't see there's any age division in this subject matter. I don't see that, it has to do with an older generation at all. What I actually see, what I'll tell you that I actually see is that the older, my generation, 21, sort of mid-20s, and younger, are really being downloaded with a lot of this, and much of them do not have an environment to allow them to grow in that department, and so it gets shut down, and they suppress it, and it gets expressed in negative outlets. And so a lot of times, as I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and I sort of see on the sidelines what's happening with younger kids, especially, some people that I know that are younger, and I think I see potential there, and I see, what they have and what they could express possibly. So there's sort of a part of me that wants to help nurture that in other children and young adults my age. And I know, at least for my friends, I talk about this, and I can see that it's opened their minds up to possibilities. Here's what I'll say about indigo children and that whole thing. In the very beginning of my journey, I'll say I was probably pretty attached to labels because it helped me to understand. And again, I like to feel special because it was so new to me at the beginning, and the information was so exciting, and I thought, well, this is exciting, and I'm happy to feel special about something that's different and cool about me. But over time, what I realized is that evolution has always taken place. You look at your grandparents or my grandparents, and there's a difference there in evolution. I don't think it's any different, now. It's just we started labeling them. And there's always been difference from generation to generation. So that shows that consciousness is rising, and there's a deepening and a less of a veil. There's more to see through. So, but the whole indigo child thing has become sort of a little personal joke for myself because, I started making funny videos on YouTube about it to sort of make light about the subject because my view about it is the more labels we put on, the more separation there is. And so there's this hierarchy thing. And how can you promote oneness? How can you promote empowerment and being your own greatest teacher and healer when you have things like talking about indigo children, because then everybody else feels like they're less, that they don't have the capability. And there's so much of that happening right now. It's already hard enough, when, say I work with people one-on-one, and there's a real sort of, spirit needs to nudge them to really grow into themselves. So I say anything that holds them back from that or holds us back from that, we shouldn't give more energy to. It's been said in a few different ways, and people ask me that a lot. They ask me who I'm channeling and why and the purpose of it and what's the difference between your God and my God, and people ask that a lot. And what I say is that energy that we're all connected to, that source, that oneness, that's where I'm connecting. And it's also where everyone else is connecting to. And that's what I believe. But it's for human beings to put the labels and to put the names on because it makes us comfortable and it makes us relate to that energy in a way that is good for us. So the way that was said to me is, you can call us anything you want. You can give us a name, you can give us a identity, but if you want to deepen the teachings, if you want to deepen the awareness and see beyond the veil, then you're going to have to be comfortable with oneness and source energy, with the broader feeling of this. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. and when I tapped into that, then I really did see how, the energy became much bigger. So how I say it is I channel source energy. I think that it's interesting because we can't put levels on this. And that's what's hard from the human perspective, is to put levels on it. And that's what challenged me as well, because in the beginning of channeling, I wanted to know all of those things. I wanted to know, where am I on the spectrum? And I even to the extent that I wanted to know how awakened I was on a scale of 1 to 100. So that's pretty humorous to me now. But the way I see it, again, it interplays with each of us. This energy interplays with us individually wherever we are on our path as well. So it's almost, you can't almost answer that because it depends on that person's soul journey as well and how it's going to come through. For me, how I present it has to do with my own energy as well as my own soul purpose, as well as however that state of oneness is expressing itself through me. So to answer the question more directly, I would say there aren't levels. I would say you can't put levels on it, but there's a unique way that it comes through, and maybe for some more filtered and maybe for some less filtered. But I wouldn't say that it's different levels of higher or lower necessarily. But again, I would say, putting that all aside, to listen to the messages that empower, that bring you to your own highest place. Whereas, you start asking yourselves these questions instead of looking for the answers outside of you. So that's my whole thing is like, if you are asking someone else these questions, then there's a part of you that is asking yourself these questions. So can you get to a place where, you can allow it to come out yourself? So when we take the levels and the labels off of channeling, we get to that deeper place where it becomes about us and our own evolution there. The most important teaching, I would say, is connection. To see that the divine is just as inspired in us as we are inspired in it, in its presence. That the love goes both ways. It's not just one way. So we're invested in the divine and that connection just as much as it is in us. And that connection is the most important thing that we have right now, and the way that any of us are going to accelerate. And so it's to invest in ourselves. And the most important teaching would be that we are our own greatest teacher and healer. So we got to put energy into that.
What was the agreement? Maybe that's a better question. What was the agreement with Courtney before, coming down to this reality, to have this connection?
That is a brilliant question. We have not spoken of this before in this way. Of course, it has been done many times before. Previous to this lifetime, it has been done many times before, but in a way that was not as open as now. And so this is an opening place of discovery in a new way, in a new dimension, and to be seen in a new way and in a new dimension. And also from a younger point, what we are speaking of is age on your human years. To do it from a younger age, which is part of the plan, part of the agreement. And the purpose of that simply is, again, because what is happening on your earth right now is important for this specific generation of beings to understand now. So, of course, it is one spark ignites many. And there are many sparks on your planet in which are helping to encourage this truth to blossom and grow like wildfire. The best kind of wildfire, of course. The agreement was about awakening, about service, and not only on the personal level, but on the global level. And even beyond your globe, it is universal. So you cannot say this agreement was just between different lifetimes on Earth. It is beyond Earth. We will tell you that. So the work may look different as to how it was received in the so-called past. But the truth of the matter is, the agreement was not before, it is now. There is only the now moment. It's all happening on different levels, on different planes. What we are saying about this, to be more clear, is that the messages are coming through on different dimensions on different planes simultaneously now. And they're coming through in different ways to assist different parts of your universe and also other universes. It is a difficult question to answer because we're not trying to confuse you in the sense that we want you to focus on what's happening here and now on your planet. But you asked about this agreement, so we're going there for you. And we're explaining to you it's deeper than it looks, in the sense that the information that comes through, it is beyond words. So we are giving you words, but we're giving you 99% of it is the energy of it. And the energy has codes within it. And if you can listen to that and feel that, it has codes in it that are not earthly. And so if you can go there with that, you will feel that the wisdom actually will assist you. If there are some on your planet which can identify this and can use it. And so there will be a time on your earth in which you need to start communicating with other planes, we'll say it that way. So go back to this energy and use this energy in what we're giving you now as a reference point. It is complex, we understand that.
So there are parallel universes where this existence is going on there as well in a different way?
It is a different way, but the work is the same. There are different technologies in different places. When we say places, we don't mean literal places that are physical. We mean that it is non-physical in some ways, but very much there is an energy. There is a vibration in which these beings, if you will call them that, occur, and they are in collaboration with one another, assisting one another, and also acting as the designers, if you will, maybe the designers of helping to be the communicators between different realities. So that is one part of it, and then it is the other piece of it, which is the ones that are more assisting humankind and your planet. And then there is some in-between energies which are more supportive and holding, feeling of holding the vibration and helping to stabilize. So as we speak about parallel realities or multidimensional realities, we want to challenge you to not get so excited about the science of it, because we do understand it excites you. But at the same time, it is about here and now, what are you doing? Here and now, what are you doing? Because your dominant reality right now, which you are perceiving from, is this human perspective in this physical body. And so we would say to you, what you are doing here is the conduit or the pathway to which you interact with these other vibrational realities that are also part of you. So your intention of love, your intention of healing, your intention of ascension, if you will call it that, stems from this reality here and now. So it is important to understand the science. It is important to understand your multidimensional reality and how vast you truly are. But once you do understand this, we ask you to remain grounded in this moment here and now. And so as we're even giving you this information, you notice there's a stillness about it. There is an energy of stillness underneath, which is, again, that piece of each and every one of us that are connecting here and now, which are reminding us it is this moment. It is your self-perceiving at this moment that is most important. So we'll answer the question more directly. We understand that sometimes it may seem as if we are taking the long route around the question, but truly it is not that way. What we will say about it is that yes, there are parallel realities, and they are happening at the same time. But the moment that you put your focus on that, the moment that you bring your intention there, your consciousness there, then you start to focus there instead of here. And what needs focus is here, right now, on your planet, on your physical being. When you start to focus elsewhere, you start to not give so much love and awareness to this physical body, which needs it. The service that you are being asked to do is here on earth. It is here in this body. So if you can use your awareness of these other parts of you that reside elsewhere as a way to strengthen your connection as a human being, strengthen your connection as a grounded human being, then you are doing your best. You can use that information, the wisdom of the ages, to deliver messages of love and healing, to deliver that energy, which again is technology that is beyond your human perception and awareness. That's how you can use it to benefit. So it's not just about that is interesting, that is cool. It is how can I use this to benefit myself and others in a way that is for healing, not just information. So we give you this information for yourself to discern as well, and to bring awareness to what is important. So it is a beautiful question.
So as I speak to you then, and I'm just going to use the words that both Courtney and I have kind of agreed upon, just oneness for now, as I speak to oneness. I'm practically speaking to myself in a sense, aren't I?
Because oneness is part of you, you are part of oneness. Yes. The answer is yes. And that is the point in which we are trying to hone in on, is that it is not separate. None of it is separate. And so when you understand that connection between you, between you and all that is, which is the same, then the doors open. You see that there is a limitless capacity of understanding and of melding that is possible. So this so-called channeling, as you call it, we wouldn't call it otherwise, but we also wouldn't say that it is a necessary term. We would say it's you tapping into you. And the reason why we would say that is because that is your true nature. Source energy is your true nature. This is an arm of that. This experience in this body is an arm of that. So if you say, this feels so relatable to me, this voice feels so much like myself, we would say, of course. Why would it not be? Because you are connected to that, and that is connected to you, and there is no separation. So if you can feel that, as we know you can, then it means you are acknowledging in a broader way now that there is no separation. And that any so-called labels that you might have had about it, about who you are, is now becoming more front and center to you. You are becoming aware that it is deeper than even you might have thought. So you can see how it stretches you. Even when you feel you are stretching yourself, there is much more. It is only the beginning. It is truly only the beginning for you.
So when some channelers are channeling a separateness in a sense, a named separateness, only a name form. And even if they say it's themselves from the future, it is an aspect of themselves, and it is really just themselves. There is no one else.
Well, it is the highest projection of them coming to them, to speak to them. So yes, it is, but who is them? Is it simply this physical body? No, it is not. It is the mind? No, it is not. Is it the organ of the heart? No, it is not. So then where is it? And that is where the God question comes in. What is God? What are angels? What is source? What is guides? What is... And here is where you start to label, and you start to identify, and you start to ask the questions. What we are saying to you is, there is only the one. But there are branches and interpretations and labels outside of that human beings create. And so the names, it is for you. It is not for God. It is not for source. It is for you. And if they wish to call it their future self, if they wish to call it Archangel Michael, if they wish to call it Archangel Metatron, so be it. But source energy is the root of all. And these energies may have distinct flavors, and that is what you are picking up on. You may say, well, but they feel different. We would say, yes, they are different. But that does not mean they are separate. It does not mean that they are separated from the one. So the analogy that we give to human beings with this question is about the pot of soup. When you make a pot of soup, you do not have only one thing in it, you have many things in it. And it cooks for a long time, and when it cooks over time, you can start to feel the different flavors emerging. And in the end result, you can taste the different spices, and you can identify that they taste differently. But they are part of the whole, which is the soup. They are combined. Therefore, you cannot say how many grains of salt is within that soup, how many molecules of water is within that soup. It becomes the wholeness. So it is the same when you are talking about entities, as you call them, different energies, different names. It is the different flavors of the soup coming through, but it is part of the whole. So the only difference we would say in the way that we are coming through is that it is from the whole instead of from a distinct flavor. But it is all the same.
How would you express our true nature then of who we are, if there was just a few words to sum it up?
Perfect energy bursting into creation at all times, in all moments of existence. That's how we would put it. Because your energy signature does not reside in any place. It does not reside on planet Earth. It does not reside on a different planet. It doesn't work that way. You are an energy that is part of all things. So the human misconception is that you reside here, that your consciousness resides here, and that is the end of the story. We would say that your energy resides in all. It's too big and too grand to put into words. So you'll just have to feel it.
Why do we keep coming back to Earth to separate ourselves from Source, only to re-emerge back into Source?
We have such fun exploring this conversation. Of course, because from that perspective, as you are a non-physical being, and you are experiencing the joy and the decision, we would say, to re-emerge back into the physical, and you know what? Your entire being is just exploding in the joy and excitement about it. There is no feeling of you do not wish for a certain direction, you see. You are not fearful. You are not feeling obligated to do it. It is simply because you feel it would be such a fun game, you see. And you do it because you see that it will give you such growth and such acceleration. And the whole joy of it is to have contrast, you see. What fun is it to simply be all-knowing and part of all things, and you want to express in a different way. And expression in the human form is so interesting because you get to forget, and you get to have the joy of learning and experiencing everything for the first time. And you pretend that you do not know. You pretend that you do not know, and then you remember. And that is the fun in all of it. That is the reason why you do all of it. But the point about it all is that you do not have such conflict around it from that perspective before you emerged. You would joke with us that you would not choose it if you knew what you were signing up for, of course. But it is not that way. As you are choosing it, there is no conflict about it. In fact, many of you would say, well, I did not know what I was signing up for. And of course you did. Of course you did. But as we are speaking of, it is all potentials. It is all potentials. But within those potentials, there are agreements, you see. And those agreements you signed up for have allowed you to see from this perspective as a human being, funneled through source energy, and has allowed you this connection to go back to that state of understanding, even as a human being. You see, the greatest form of this journey is the journey of discovery as a human being, of who you truly are, where you came from. To discover that, and then to channel that wisdom through you. That is the most accelerated human experience that there is, without re-emerging back into the non-physical first, of course. So if you can do that, you are accelerating even more, even more, even more, even more. You do it for the joy of it, not because you thought it would be good for you, not because something else thought it was good for you. No, because you thought it was good for you. In fact, you knew it would be good for you, and you wanted to do it. There is no obligation in this. You saw the possibilities there, and you said, I'm ready for it.
Thank you. And is there any advice you can give to us, on maybe a fast track way, or a hack, or a fast track way, should I say, to progress in ourselves? What is a way to progress ourselves spiritually, if that's why people are watching this, if that's what they're seeking?
We would say, first of all, our favorite joke is there is no 12-step process. That is our favorite one. Because human beings, all of you, you are looking for quick and easy. That is why you use the microwave, of course. But that is not the same for for this because it is deeper than that. It is much deeper than that. What are some tools you can use? We would say, first of all, do not see this as a plan of action, because the moment you see spirituality, as you call it, as a plan of action, then you are setting yourself up for disappointment. You are. Because so many of you call it this. You were normal and then you became spiritual. What is that? What does that mean? You did not come from nothing and then become greater, did you? The moment you were born into this physical body, you are spiritual, if you even want to call it that. Even before that, especially before that. So, what is awakening? If you simply live out your earth experience and say to yourself, I want to know more about who I am, that would be enough. Of course, you have to listen. You have to listen. But we wouldn't tell you, go to these workshops or go to see this person or go and get your chakras read. We would not say that. These are all human ideas. If you want us to get real with you, we would say, ask yourself the questions and listen. Maybe the question is, what is the question to ask? Well, what are you wanting to understand? If you don't know what to ask, then ask what you don't want to understand, or ask what you don't see yet. Ask anything. It is like unraveling of a sock. All it takes is a little bit of a hole in it, and there is a thread loose. And now there is an unraveling happening. All it takes is one hole, one little hole in it. And that is the same. You ask one simple question, and it starts to unravel a much bigger, much broader story. So it truly is that simple for you, human beings. You just have to ask something and be willing to listen, and also know that the wisdom of the ages is within you. And you would say, well, I have not meditated once in my life, so there is no way that I am going to believe that. We would say, it has nothing to do with that. You are a human being, and you are a non-physical being. So do not say that you do not have what we say you have within you. If that were not true, then you would not be a human being now. So if you want to accelerate, then you must sit there and remind yourself that the answers are right there in front of you, meaning yourself, and ask a question and then listen. Listen and train yourself in that way. And it will challenge you. It will challenge you. But the moment that you put your power and your answers in someone else, that's the moment that you check out, that you are putting yourself on the back burner. So we're giving you this information to help those that are ready to go deeper, you see.
Okay, go into a different angle right now. Do we all have guides?
Of course. Each and every one of you has guides. But what is the term of guides? Does it mean it is an animal that hovers above you in the spirit world? Does it mean an energy, a friendly energy that is with you? Does it mean an intuition? Does it mean, what does it mean? And so you see, this is interpretations of the human bias. The human bias, it is saying to you, through its all of its filters, it is saying to you, there is something that you perceive that is beyond this physical perception, and yet you're not quite sure how to label it or what to think about it. And so the human mind, it searches for explanations. And we would say to you, it is beyond all of this. We would say to you, would it be enough to feel the power of love with you, to feel the energy of support around and within you that is so grand and so majestic that you would never need to question that again? Would that be enough? And would it be enough to the point that you didn't even need to identify what it was, where it came from, who it is, what its name is? Would it be enough? That is what we are pushing you, dear ones, to see, is that it's not about the words. It's about the vibration. It's about the feeling. It's about the connection. That is you. So, of course, you are connected. As we have said, you have never left the source. If that is true, then you are always connected. If you wish to call that guides, so be it. If you wish to call it angels, so be it. As long as you find that connection that is pure, that is that untouched space of energy that you can always go back to, that you can confide in, that you can be one with, that you can share space and energy with, that is the purpose. So, yes, you have guides. Of course. Why would you not? You always have, you always will. You are part of it. You are part of... Here is the funny thing about it. Because the way that you perceive it is that you're a human being and you have spirit beings surrounding you. That is the way you perceive it. What would you say if we said you are the one standing behind you? What would you say to that? We would say, you might not feel so comfortable about that, because that notion requires you to believe something different about you, which is that you're much bigger than this physical perception. You're much bigger than this body and this mind. Many of you would say, that is not grand enough. If I am the one that is supporting myself, if I am the angel that is behind me, then that is not a very good idea. I don't feel supported by that. We would say, get used to knowing who you are then. Get used to seeing who you truly are. Because if you truly knew who you are, then you would not question this. You would see the limitless potential and energy that you contain in a multicellular way, and you would say, look at that. I am supporting myself. I am the angel that I am part of. I am the angel that guides me and supports me. It's not separate from you. It is you. And that doesn't make it any less. It makes it more. It makes it more powerful. Yes, indeed.
Do we have a life plan before we come into this life?
We would say that there are potentials. That from that point of view, as you are non-physical beings, you can see all paths are golden. You can see that each potential is a path to enlightenment. And when we say that, we do not mean that you become a monk. We do not say that you meditate in the caves. That is not what we mean by enlightenment. What we mean is that you become awakened to who you are. And the human journey When you see the potentials from the non-physical perspective, you see all as equal. And so when you made the decision to come into this physical body as you are now, it was not so much a choice, but an action in pure joy. You wanted to express, you wanted to feel the joy of playing out this game of life and seeing what it can create for you and what you can create for it. So is there one way? No, there is not. Is there one way now? No, there is not. You get to choose along the way. Is there a path that may stand out to you? Yes, there is. You may feel into these different vibrations, these different possibilities, but the way that you experience it is truly as possibilities, and not that one path is correct and one path is not correct. There is no right or wrong from this perspective. There is no good or bad. There only is. So from that place, you simply jump in with joy. It is only from this human lens that you question, and that you bring judgment, and that you bring questioning, and that there is this contrast and this yearning and this desire to figure it all out. And we would say, as long as you are in alignment with your passion, with your joy, with your wisdom, and with your connectedness, and always asking more of yourself, to go deeper, to understand deeper, then you are doing the best that you can. Did you have a path in mind? We would not put it that way. Is there a right path and a wrong path? We would not put it that way. Are you on the right path now? We would not put it that way. Is it perfect as it is? Yes. Can you be content with what is? Yes. Are you always waiting for a moment to burst into a new creative possible outlet? Yes. And that leads to new branches. You are like a tree. In the wintertime, it does not grow. It does not grow leaves. But in the summertime, in the springtime, new buds, new branches grow. And out of the larger arms grow smaller arms, and out of those smaller arms grow even smaller arms out to the side. It is the same for you. You make a decision, which is always correct, and that opens up a new arm of possibility. So imagine the tree, the limbs of the tree, and how that expands in the springtime and the summertime. That is the perfect analogy to creating on the earth plane. All you have to do is say yes, see what unfolds, and follow in the path of least resistance. And then choose again. Let it unfold. Go in the path of least resistance. That is the path. There is no other path. It is moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Present moment, present moment. There's not a set path that you chose. You're not living out something that you already planned. There are potentials. You move in the direction of a potential, and you create. So that is how it is.
And if someone's going to commit a heinous crime of whatever it may be, right? There's quite a few ways to do that. Is that in the plan?
Yes, of course. It is always the plan. What gets tricky is helping you human beings to understand that we are not endorsing conflict. We are not endorsing anything other than love. What we are endorsing is that you understand that each and every soul signature has a different unfolding process. And there will never be a time in which there is not this contrast, where there is not those beings that are causing upheaval. And the reason for that is it shifts you. It shifts you. It asks the deeper questions of you. It asks you to go deeper within you. It's a challenge. And human beings are always up for a challenge. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it scary? Yes. Is it tragic? Yes. It can be all of these things simultaneously.
If you have done something that in this level would seem so hurtful to someone else and probably you as a soul, when you cross over, is there a time of reflection to reflect on what you've done?
Yes, there is. But it does not come straight away as you perceiving from your human lens again. From that space of in-betweenness that some experience, what you would call a near-death experience, when you have, as we would say, it is metaphorical, but we would say 1 foot in each energy, 1 foot in the oneness, 1 foot in your humanness. It's not truly that way, but those that have experienced near-death experiences will note that there's a time of reflection in which you can see with a broader perspective the wholeness of your soul's evolution, what it is doing, the purpose of it, the reasons of it, and also what you can do moving forward to assist it, to feed it in a nurturing way, to help yourselves and to help the planet. Again, it is service oriented because you are all working together. So bringing it back to what you said about heaven, because these places are not places. What you think are places are not places. They are states of consciousness. And so what we are picking up from the conversation or the talking point about this, your question, is that there are some soul purposes, some beings, when they so-called transition, when they so-called die, that have a moment of perspective before they are truly re-emerged, where they are noticing what they have done in their lifetime, and may notice that maybe they have not done as much as they wish to. That is the point that we are trying to make, is that there is no feeling of, I did not do enough. And also, on that same note, there may be limiting belief systems that still hold true as your human self from that in-between place. That can be caused by very strict belief systems in religious structures or political structures that at that very moment of transition may hold you back a bit. But do not get us wrong in that each and every one of you re-emerge or come full form, we'll say it, into who you truly are, into the wholeness, into the oneness. And from that place, you are all treated equally.
But briefly, then, before Courtney went down, we were just between us mentioned the word discernment, and again, that brings it round to that even for the channelers, much like the religions, you still have to use discernment of what feels right.
Yes, we always encourage that. Because your inner guidance system is your way of discerning. And it comes in many ways, it comes in many forms, but most dominantly through your physical body. And we focus on that because it is the main modality or the main conduit in which you are so connected to. Many of you see your identity as your body, you see. So we help you to utilize your body as a means of tapping into your guidance system. It is important to discern because that is where your empowerment comes from. So it is important.
Thank you. And are there lower energy beings, lower astral beings, lower vibrational beings that, for whatever reason, will or do not want us to awaken or to grow spiritually because of the level that they're at, and will not do anything to stop that, but are present in this reality unseen to us?
We would put it as contrast, because we know it is difficult as we are speaking to you and we continue to change your terminology, but terminology is also energy. And so when we say lower, it also means in your view that less, it means less. But we would say contrast because there are energies in which may not be of the highest light or vibration, but we would put it as contrast, that are intertwined with the arrangement of humanity and of the earth consciousness. And it is conflicting with the higher energetic convergence happening. We would say that humanity right now is finding a way to work with that. And you are seeing it all around in your world, in many different ways, in many different human ways. But most of all, we would say the more that you focus on that, the more you are feeding into it. We would not say lower vibrational beings, we would say there is a piece of this experience as a human being that is challenging you to look at yourselves. Are you being taken over by darkness? No. Are you doomed as a civilization? No. All that this is about is focus, focus, focus. It is asking you this question. Where do you choose to focus? Where do you choose to put your energy? Will you choose to bond together as one? Will you choose to see who you truly are? Will you choose to see past your human lens? The more that are saying yes to this, the more that you are awakening to this potential. And the less that you are seeing this contrast in your daily life, it's where you put your awareness.
So we talked about the law of attraction before as well. So when it comes to illness, then, if someone's got cancer or someone's got some, life-threatening illness, is that something that was in the plan as a potential? And or well, even if it's not, we're pulling it to ourselves, aren't we? Maybe the question should be, why do we attract these painful ways to cross over?
it comes back to each and every soul signature. Each of you has a soul signature, has a, as you said beautifully, potentials. And some of you are, of course, judgmental of when you see someone close to you, especially, who is suffering and who transitioned in a way that caused them great suffering, and it was not peaceful. You have great empathy for them. That is the human way. That is something that is so unique about your kind, your species. And yet we would say to you, when we talk about the law of attraction, and you talk about attracting an illness to you, many would say, I did not attract this. I was a good person. I am a good person. I have done many good things. I have offered myself and my services and my everything to life. I did not do this to myself. We would say, you did not do anything to you. Nothing has been done to you. There are nudges along the way to help you to learn. In some cases, you see, it is not one answer. We cannot put this in a block answer because each and every being is so differing. If we were to give you the standpoint or the offering that for some, they have not been listening, and so they get hit with a so-called illness, and then they are forced to pay attention. And sometimes they get better from it because they listened. And for others, there is a desire underneath what the eyes can see, but the soul desire to reemerge back into the state of oneness, because it was their offering to emerge into the physical for a short bit, to learn this lesson, and then to go back home. Because remember, planet Earth is not your home. Human being is not your home. Source energy is your home. So the way we talk about this is not to be disrespectful, in the sense that illnesses are very serious to you. You take death very seriously because there is fear around what happens afterwards. And we would say, imagine if you were a pet. They are in such a high frequency above humanity that they simply reemerge with such ease and grace. They do not mind. They do not say, why did I attract this illness? Why am I sick? Why am I? No. They notice that it is okay because home is not in this body. So again, that is the talking point for many of you, because we would say some of these examples and then others would say, but what about the infants? What about the little ones? They didn't attract it. They don't know what the law of attraction is. Then why did they get cancer? So you can see it is distinct for each and every one. But again, they did not do this to themselves. They offered to be in alignment with source energy. They offered that they would come in agreement on this earth plane for a short bit. They had a plan, of course. They knew what they were doing. You might not understand it, but they knew what they were doing. They might not remember, but that is because they are working from the human lens when they know you. It is very complex. There are many layers to this. But understand that it is so beyond even just simply the law of attraction, because, well, we would say it in this way. It is beyond your human understanding of the law of attraction. The law of attraction is the greatest law in the universe. It is what is the workings of everything. But from the non-physical perspective, it is not so technical. It simply is what it is. So do not see illness or death as a stopping point. And for those that can get off of that way of perceiving, it opens up many new doors to be compassionately aware of, okay, maybe I was not listening. Maybe that is why there is an imbalance here. Or maybe I know that I have learned what I am to learn here now, and the path of least resistance now is to emerge back into my true home. So be aware that there are so many different opportunities to learn about this, and that each and every story is individual as well. We hope this brings some awareness.
Guru